of course, the big news of last week before we get to the guests, the return of Conor McGregor. Yes, the notorious one. He is, in fact, coming back on January 18th against Donald Cerrone, UFC 246. Someone just sent me something on Instagram moments ago. What's 2 + 4 + 6? 246, UFC 246. Proper 12. How about that? The stars align. So Conor versus Cerrone. They are doing it January 18th. In fact, this wasn't even a pay-per-view scheduled. They were going to start the calendar year on January 25th with the Raleigh, North Carolina event. But once it became clear that Conor wanted to return, was eager to return, had this plan to fight 3 times in 2020, they actually slotted this one in. And for a minute, it was unclear if it was going to happen. There was some hurdles with his visa, some other hurdles to try to get the deal done, negotiations. But by all accounts, it was actually a pretty easy one as far as Conor McGregor negotiations are concerned. And they got it done. And the opponent is Donald Cerrone. And it's happening January 18th in Las Vegas, T-Mobile Arena, first pay-per-view of 2020. And it was interesting because when this news came out, I saw a lot of people, as is typically the case, belly aching, criticizing, whining, critiquing, especially on Twitter, the vocal minority, that this isn't the fight to make, that Conor is ducking Donald Cerrone. Excuse me, that Conor is ducking the likes of Justin Gaethje and Jorge Masvidal and Tony Ferguson. Name a fighter, he's ducking him, that this wasn't the fight. And I was reminded back in early 2019, not that long ago, when Cerrone was enjoying this renaissance, the dad, dropping down to 155, everyone was all excited. He should be the guy. Remember after his win over Alex Hernandez? He should be the guy. Remember after his win over Ali Quinta? He should be the guy. But a funny thing happened in his last 2 fights. He fought 2 of the best lightweights on the planet, Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje, and now all of a sudden he's a bum. Now all of a sudden he's a cupcake. Now all of a sudden he's a tomato can. And everyone hates this fight. Everyone says that it makes no sense, that it doesn't make, any sense for Conor, that Cerrone doesn't deserve it, that they're trying to protect Conor, that he's ducking X, Y, and Z. And I couldn't believe, look, I've come to expect this kind of rhetoric. I've come to expect it from the people, but I just couldn't understand. I understand that everyone wants to see, I think, especially online, there's this feeling of like, we want to see Conor fall flat on his face. We have wanted it ever since he debuted against Marcus Brimage. And over the past year, he has given us a lot of reasons to root against him. A lot of the things that he has done over the past year and change have been indefensible, have really given a lot of fuel to the critics, to the detractors about who this man really is. And so I think that when people talk about his return, they want to see him fight a Gaethje, they want to see him fight a Masvidal, because they want to rid the UFC of this man once and for all. And they don't take a step back and look at, hey, if I am crafting the comeback for Conor McGregor, am I going to really throw him in? A guy who hasn't won since November of 2016, a guy who hasn't fought since October of 2018, am I going to throw him in there against a title contender? Am I going to throw him in there against a champion, as was, the dialogue not that long ago? No, this is actually, for the first time in a long time, a realist approach to where he is in his career, a realist approach to where he is right now in his life. If you want him to succeed, if you are managing him, if you are trying to craft this comeback, if you're trying to orchestrate this 3 fights in 2020 campaign that they're talking about, are you really going to throw him in there against a guy who's on a 10-fight winning streak, 5-fight winning streak, or are you going to throw him in there against a guy who's a name, who's a fan favorite, who is the winningest fighter in UFC history, who's got a resume, who's been talking about this fight for over 4 years? To me, that makes a hell of a lot more sense. I'm not trying to protect Conor McGregor. In fact, I'm telling you, the guy hasn't won since November of 2016. I'm telling you that he doesn't deserve a title fight off the bat. I'm telling you that he doesn't deserve a number 1 contender fight. And I'm not trying to protect Donald Cerrone in this exchange as well. Donald Cerrone doesn't like me. Donald Cerrone doesn't want to talk to me. I walked up to Donald Cerrone in Chicago at the media day to, quote unquote, bury the hatchet with him, and he told me to go buzz off. Doesn't want to talk to me. I'm not trying to protect the UFC. Trust me. That's the last thing I'm trying to do in this whole entire exchange. If you only knew the stuff that I had to deal with. I'm just telling it to you like it is. If you understand the fight game, if you understand how this all works, tune-up fights, whatever you want to call this, comeback fights, this is how it works. You ease your way back into it. You get your mojo back. You get your confidence back. You don't jump in there with the sharks. That was the problem with the Khabib fight last year. That was the problem with it. He needed some time to get the cobwebs out, to get his mojo back, to get that, that motor feeling again. That's what we're doing here. And so this is a breath of fresh air. This is exactly how you should be crafting the comeback. I mentioned 4.5 years ago. I mentioned that there's a long history here. You could go back to that Remember when they had that exchange at that press conference? I believe we have the clip. Lest you forget, you almost forgot, this is when it started. September 4th, 2015. This is when it started between Donald Cerrone and Conor McGregor.
Yeah, it's red panty night when you decide to fight me, yeah? Back at home with your wife. It's a celebration.
Conor has no right coming up to 55. There's no way he's not going to stand a chance. We're too big for him. We're too strong. So you can take your little English ass and get on.
You're too slow and too stiff. You're stiff as a board. I'd snap you in half. And that's it.
Yes.
I see stiffness when I look in that 155-pound division. Slow, stiff. I feel like they're stuck in the mud almost. The featherweights, they hit like flyweights, so it's nice down there just destroying them and killing that whole division. But I have my eye on that 155 division, and I see them all stuck in the mud in there. So
Conor,
we'll see over time. But guess what? Have I been wrong yet? Have I been wrong yet? No.
You have a monster right here at 45, Aldo, about to beat your ass. You beat nobody, and you think you're going to come up to 155, make a statement? Come on, man. Sit down. Yeehaw!
So I remember being in attendance when that happened. I was like, "Ooh, wow, this is interesting." But there's a lot in between them at this point. Cerrone was getting ready for RDA, Conor, Aldo, so many fights in between. The one thing I don't like about the fight that was announced on January 18th, I don't love that it's happening at 170. I think Conor is at his best at 155, and I think Cerrone's at his best at 155. And I wish that we could go back to that clip because they're talking about 155. But I think this is part of the thinking, all right, 170, maybe next, Masvidal or Diaz, they're 170 years. Okay, I get it. I don't love it. I don't feel like he's as on point at 170, but fine, all right, we'll take it. And so I love that then. I thought it was fine. What I didn't like, if you recall, all of you may have forgotten this, what I didn't like was back in January when he beat Alex Hernandez, and all of a sudden, Donald Cerrone was almost like begging for this fight. I like that Donald Cerrone, who was calling him out, who was saying, you were a bum. You don't deserve to even be talking about fighting us. Do you remember back in January when I talked about, Cerrone being too nice about this whole situation? That's why he doesn't like me. That's why he's mad at me. Let me remind you all what I said back in January. Here's the clip from Ariel the Bad Guy.
I am in with a caveat, Chael. I am in if Donald Cerrone goes back to the Donald Cerrone that we saw at that press conference several years ago, around 3.5 years ago. I am not in, Chael, if we get the Cowboy Cerrone who was talking on the microphone after his win over Alexander Hernandez on Saturday night. Conor, if you'd give me a chance, please give me the honor of fighting you. What is that all about, Cowboy? When you first met Conor McGregor at that press conference, you were calling him a bum. You were saying he was overhyped. You were saying he was a nobody. Now it's like, you see that interview with Brett? Go back to that interview with Brett. He said, I'm living in Conor's world. You're living in Conor's world, Donald Cerrone? You're the winningest fighter in UFC history. He's living in your world. Stop acting like he's some god. I don't want to see a Cowboy Cerrone who's going to be kissing Conor McGregor's butt. No, that's not interesting to me. That is completely boring. I don't want to see that kind of respect. I want to see a guy who doesn't respect Conor, who's going to say that you are overhyped, that I'm going to take all the air out of that balloon and I'm going to end you and rid you of this weight class. You are out of here. You're out of this promotion. All that stuff that he was saying, he looked great on Saturday. But afterwards, he completely killed my buzz for that fight, Chael, because he's giving him too much respect and quite frankly, he's coming across as weak.
Now, I am convinced Cerrone has never actually watched that clip. I'm convinced that the same casuals who, go on my clips and cut things off and take them out of context have sent it to him and said that I was disparaging him. Because if he would actually listen to that, I was saying, no, Cerrone, you are the winningest fighter in UFC history. Stop acting like you're living in his world. He's actually living in your world. And you notice, ever since this fight was announced, or even a possibility of becoming a reality, that rhetoric is gone. So he may not like me, he may be mad at me, but the truth is, I believe deep down he listened to me, because you don't hear that anymore. You don't hear the, please fight me, please give me this opportunity. You don't hear that from him even after the fight was made official. And so I like this. I like that there's a backstory. Okay, there's a little respect shown. That's fine. But this whole thing of like, please do me the honor. No, the winningest fighter in UFC history does not need to say that. No way. You have done enough. You have earned that respect. You have earned that fight. You have earned that right. Donald Cerrone has earned this. He has earned this opportunity. And if you're Conor McGregor, this is the perfect fight to get back on track with. Y'all can say whatever you want. You can make the memes. You can make the clips. You can do whatever you want. I am right here. And any one of you that don't understand that or don't want to acknowledge that, you just don't get the fight game. You don't understand how it works. This man has not won since November of 2016. Get that through your little heads. Hasn't fought since October of 2018. You want him to jump back in there? The only ones who are saying that are the ones who want to see him combust, who want to see him go down in flames. I just want to see a great fight. And the realist in me understands that if you want to see a great fight right now involving Conor McGregor, this is the kind of fight that he should be in. Next, get by this one. All right, let's talk about Gaethje. Let's talk about Masvidal. Let's talk about the Nate Diaz trilogy fight. Let's talk about Tony, whatever. But the first one, let's just ease back into this. So I like this. I think this is sensical. I think it's being a realist. I like it. I think they're smart with this one. It all makes sense. Hello, everyone. It's Ariel Helwani. I just came here to thank you for watching our ESPN YouTube channel. It's the best. You know what else is the best? The ESPN app. You can get highlights, analysis, all that stuff and more. And if you want premium content and live streaming sports, there's only one place for all of that. It's ESPN Plus.